Hey, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Cinema Heroes. That's right. We've decided to change the name of the show. It is no longer Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies. It is now Cinema Heroes, which kind of makes sense. That's what the website name was and everything. When John and I started this podcast now almost 9 years ago. Can you believe that, John?
It's insane.
I know. We were trying to figure out a title, and I told John, whatever the title is, our tagline should be Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies. And John was like, that's the title. That's what the podcast needs to be. He was so passionate about it. I was like, all right, sure. But I also knew that I didn't want to register Superheroes Movies and SuperheroMovies.com.
Right.
So I think the favorite of the names that I had kind of come up with was Cinema Heroes. And so I just was like, well, originally I thought, I was very ambitious, and I was thinking, well, Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies will be one show, and then we'll come up with something else that'll be like another, we have multiple podcasts. Correct. And it could all be under Cinema Heroes. So I was thinking Cinema Heroes would be the network.
Yep.
And then we have different shows. That never happened, obviously. So people have asked me, they're like, why is your website?
Remember we used to do like those like mini reviews?
Yeah.
And we had, I had like one, I think. Yeah. And you had like maybe
5. Yeah. It wasn't very many. I ended up deleting those off the podcast hosting site. But yeah, I did like when Guardians of the Galaxy first came out, I did like a mini review and stuff. And I had fun doing those, but it was hard to kind of keep them up. But yeah, so people have asked me like, why is your website called Cinema Heroes, but your podcast is Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies? And I was like, I don't know. So we've just decided to make it less confusing and call the show Cinema Heroes, Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies. But mostly just Cinema Heroes. So this is
So we've made it longer.
Right. Yes,
You're
exactly.
welcome.
Well, what's really funny
Trying to make it shorter, we made it longer.
Yeah. And I think I may have talked about this with you, Stu, when we did Batman Mask of the Phantasm, because I think that was the first animated movie we had done. I had been wanting to do animated superhero movies for so long. And for whatever reason, John, I don't know if you just were never really, you're doing this one, but I didn't know if you were just never really interested or something. So I thought about coming up with a new show called Superheroes Movies and Superhero Movies, the animated series. But then I was like, I can't do it. It's too long.
But you can do Cinema Heroes, the animated series.
That's true. I could do that.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. We're doing animated movies now, so it's all right. But yeah, so from now on, we are Cinema Heroes. We are no longer.
This could be, maybe one day it'll get lumped into being the first episode of Cinema Heroes, the animated series. But right now, it's a full-fledged episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, without further ado, here we go. Today's episode is Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox, directed by Jay Oliva, written by Jim Krieg, based on the Flashpoint graphic novel by Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert, and starring the voices of Justin Chambers, C. Thomas Howell, Michael B. Jordan, Kevin McKidd, Nathan Fillion, Carrie Elways, and Kevin Conroy. There's actually a ton of characters in this movie, so that's just a few of them. Sam Daly is another one, which I was kind of found interesting, that Sam Daly, the son of Tim Daly, plays Superman in this movie.
Yes.
So this came out in 2013 and was, there wasn't really like a big fanfare about it, but this was kind of the beginning of the DC animated New 52 kind of universe that they were creating.
Mm-hmm.
I have bought all of the DC animated movies pretty much as soon as they come out. And so I remember watching this when it came out, and I had not read the graphic novel yet. I was unfamiliar with the story, and so I was kind of blown away by it. I usually am not a huge fan of and this doesn't really quite fall into this category, but I'm not always a huge fan of like kind of the Elseworld stories, the heroes, but not really kind of in this universe type thing. But this one was just so good. I was really surprised by it. And I ended up buying the graphic novel shortly thereafter and reading it and just loving the whole story.
When did this story come out?
The graphic novel?
Yeah.
I That's a good question. I suppose I could look. I do have it.
Because I'm curious.
Somewhere.
I'm assuming that like what is it? What is the one in the Marvel one with like the spider? Like there's like the whole Spider Wars. You know what I'm talking about? Isn't that like a story that's based kind of like the multiverse? Am I thinking of something else?
You might be right. I'm not sure. I don't know.
I know what you're talking about. I don't know the name of it, but it's similar.
And I was just curious, like, because I'm guessing, because I think that one came out in the 90s.
This was the Flashpoint. I mean, this was the graphic novel was designed to kind of reboot their universe, essentially, which is what they did with the New 52.
Right.
And
so
kind of
was this written for the New 52?
I believe. Well, it was written kind of at the end of whatever was before the New 52. And then the events of this graphic novel kind of created the New 52.
This was the end of the post-crisis era.
Yeah, there you go.
2011. And then this ushered in the New 52.
Okay. So this definitely was not a new concept to comic book like universes at this point.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was kind of like
DC has rebooted their universe 30,000 times.
Yeah,
so.
Right. Well, and that's like the Crisis on Infinite Earths thing. I think that came about because they realized they had just created so many universes that they were like, we've got to do something to
consolidate all these
universes. To fix this. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have reboot. I mean, even since the New 52, they've rebooted it again.
Yeah, rebirth.
So, do you remember when Marvel and DC like crossed over? Was that a one-time thing?
Yes, that was a one-time thing, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it.
I didn't dive into the story or anything, but I had a few of the cards. I think one was like Doctor Doom and Doomsday, I think is what it was.
Yeah, Doctor Doomsday.
Yeah. And
Batman and Wolverine was the Dark Claw.
That's cool.
Captain America and Superman were Super Soldier. Like it was awesome. But the best thing about it for me was seeing the DC and Marvel heroes kind of be at odds, but then team up. One of my favorite issues was the Batman and Captain America issue, where they're both at like peak human performance, so they're like besting each other. But it was cool to see them team up in the end.
Yeah, cool. That was a while ago too. Like that'd be cool if they did it again.
In, like middle school when
yeah,
maybe younger than that.
Imagine like Marvel Studios just being like, "Hey DC, let us do your movies for you, and we'll merge them together. We'll do a Marvel DC crossover. Let us just handle this."
I think before we leave this earth, that might happen.
Yeah,
we might be old and gray when it happens, but I think it's gonna happen.
I like the way you worded it, though. Like, I mean, because Warner Brothers really, I mean, there's obviously been some good movies, but Warner Brothers really doesn't know what they're doing in the same way that Marvel knows what they're doing. And so I just like I like that idea of Kevin Feige just calling up whoever's at Warner Brothers and being like, you know what, let me just do it. I can,
Hey,
I'll do it.
Do you hate losing money? Because if you do, just let us do the movies.
Just let me do it. It'll be great. So, John, when did you see this for the first time? Did you see this around 2013?
Yeah, it was close. I'm pretty sure I streamed it, but it was like I think when streaming was
fairly new,
maybe like a year old, maybe. Because I remember I also like after watching I think I watched War first.
Oh, okay.
What was before that? Doomsday. What was the first one?
The very first one was Superman Doomsday.
Doomsday.
There was a few between that. And
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, and then War, and that's right. What was third?
Well,
I was thinking this was the third one.
No. There was like Superman Doomsday, Justice League: The New Frontier, then Batman: Gotham Knight, and then there was Green Lantern: First Flight, and then the Wonder Woman movie.
That's right.
There was quite a few before this one.
Superman, Batman, Public Enemies,
right?
Superman, Batman, Apocalypse.
Yeah.
I saw. I think I saw Batman or Superman Apocalypse. And And this was one of the first ones I saw, though, because I remember, I think Green Lantern First Flight was probably the first one I saw.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, that was really good. Let me see this Justice League one. I think it was New Frontier, actually, was the first one I watched, because I don't think War had come out yet.
No. Well, War was after this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then, New Frontier. And then I'm pretty sure this might have been like the third one I saw. And I was just like, these are really good. So that's my memory. I hadn't seen it since, maybe once before, but it'd been a while. And I enjoyed it just as much. I think it's a really intriguing story. And I like the characters and how, it's not just Batman like as a bad guy.
Right.
He's not a bad guy, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like, it's just, it's his dad. Right. And someone that, as a Batman fan, you actually get to connect to the person that Bruce Wayne, one of the people Bruce Wayne is so broken up over, and why he becomes Batman. And now we get to watch the emotional viewpoint of his father losing his son, and he does the same thing. He goes out to avenge his son. And it's a sadder story, actually.
He's even worse. Yeah.
Stu, so I assume you saw this when it was first released as well, right?
Oh yes, I saw this in 2013. When it came out, I got it on Blu-ray. So I've had this thing. I've had this Blu-ray for like 9 years now.
Yep.
And I loved it. I did not read the comic first, but I knew about it. But almost immediately after I saw the movie, I went and bought the graphic novel of it and read it, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, they do like the graphic novel is amazing, but the movie does actually, I think, a really great job of adapting it. It's pretty close to how the graphic novel is.
Yeah.
I don't think I even knew about what I don't think I knew of Flashpoint when I started to watch the movie. I think I knew that there was the New 52, and I knew that they had gotten new costumes and kind of new origins, sort of, and whatnot, or at least different kind of like I knew Superman was different in the New 52. But I didn't know anything about how they kind of rebooted it or anything like that. So this was all kind of new to me. But I really, really thought it was really cool. And, of course, when you're watching it and Batman is shooting guns and stuff, you're like, what is going on? So that was, not knowing anything about it going into it is kind of really kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I watched this with my two younger kids, and I forgot how, it's pretty gory.
It's a little violent.
It's PG-13, but it's like when Wonder Woman lifts
Mira's head.
I was like, I think my kids had the same reaction. I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things they mentioned too, is because you see through the mother conversation, everything, Barry realizes he's in a different world now and things are changing. And then it shows Batman and he's shooting guns, and they were like, Batman's a bad guy.
He's drinking alcohol.
And he doesn't shave.
Right. That's how you know.
I think it's really cool, that his eyes are like red. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yes.
Is there any explanation as to why there's a red circle behind?
No, I don't think so.
It just looks cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually, when I first saw the Flashpoint Batman design, I think it was actually in one of the Arkham games. I think Arkham City had a Flashpoint skin.
It was Arkham Knight.
Oh, it was Arkham Knight? Well, then I would have played that after this, so maybe not. But I was thinking that whenever I saw the design first, so it must have been this movie, I remember at first I was like, I don't know if I like the design. It's got the weird points on the shoulders and the red behind the bat signal and everything. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome. He's I really like the Thomas Wayne.
Yeah, Batman. I actually have the Hot Topic exclusive pop vinyl of that. That's one of my favorite pops.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of Batman, let's talk about him. What do you think about Kevin McKidd's performance of Thomas Wayne?
I loved it. I absolutely loved it. His voice is so brooding and kind of scary. But at the same time, it's very straightforward, just like Batman is, and monotone.
Yeah.
But he still manages to be very intimidating with that monotone voice. So I love how gruff it was.
Yeah. He is scary. There's that one part where, he does it might be when he breaks Flash's finger and he's like, I used to be a doctor. He's like, mention my dead son's name again, and I'll break out the surgical tools or whatever.
That's it. That was it. Yeah, that was exactly it. Now that we're talking about it, though, you never there's just one brief moment really where he's unmasked and you get to see Thomas Wayne.
And is that in the flashback when he's beating the guy up in the alley, or is it?
Yeah, it's once in the flashback and once at the end of the movie.
Oh yeah, okay. Because he takes off. I'm trying to remember. He's dying,
right?
And then he takes it off to for emotional effect and everything to say his last words. But I think it would have been cool to get some Thomas Wayne scenes. Maybe he just is constantly wearing that suit because he's just dead inside.
Right? Yeah. Could be.
He sleeps in it and showers in it. And
eats cereal while wearing the Batman.
But if he doesn't, if he does change from time to time, I think it would have been cool to see some Thomas Wayne scenes, maybe a little in there would have been kind of neat. But yeah, definitely as Batman, Thomas Wayne he knocks it out of the park. I love how he's presented. I love his voice, the acting, the lot. It's just he's probably my favorite character in the movie. And I was thinking about that.
He's easily my favorite character in the movie.
Talking about Thomas Wayne, he owns a casino. He says he's a casino owner in this movie. And so I do feel like maybe he's got to be Thomas Wayne at some point, unless he just gets money from the casino,
right?
And he doesn't ever have to show his face at the casino. You know what I mean?
He doesn't. It would have been interesting too. They go into how he's definitely different than Bruce. And by the end, it's almost like a redeeming. He's slowly learning to trust, and because he's very, he's been so hurt, by the world. His wound is just like we were talking about earlier. Just it's worse. It's even worse for him.
Yeah, he definitely has the best arc in the movie.
Yeah,
because in the beginning of the movie, like you said, he's so wounded, he's so hurt. He takes that, and he's still a familiar Batman, but at the same time, he's very direct and straight to the point, which is why he uses guns, because he doesn't have time to think about saving these criminals' lives. If you get in my way, I'm going to kill you.
He throws what's her name?
Yo-Yo. Yeah.
He throws
essentially Harley Quinn.
Yeah, he throws her off the edge.
Yeah.
Tells who saves her? Was it Cyborg?
Cyborg saves her.
Yeah. He's like, you should have let her hit the pavement.
Yeah. Pretty rough.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very very violent, very straight to the point. But by the end of the movie, he hasn't quite redeemed himself, but like you said, he has learned to trust more.
Right.
And I want to say he sees the error of his ways, but he makes adjustments to his technique.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like, he has faith that his son might be saved by Flash.
Yes.
He's like, my vengeance is done. I can just die in peace. And it's like you said, it's not like he's necessarily sorry about what he did, but
yeah.
Well, it's even like when, he doesn't want to join Cyborg's team in the beginning at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then once he realizes that Flash can do something to kind of change the world and bring Bruce back, kind of, he's willing to join the team, but it's not for the reason Cyborg wants him to join the team. It's just so that Flash can finish it.
Save Bruce.
Save Bruce.
Right.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about it, is just it's completely selfish. Like all he cares about is his happiness, right?
Right.
It's not Bruce. He doesn't care about Bruce. He just doesn't want to feel the pain of Bruce gone. So it's really all about Thomas Wayne.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Going back to the beginning of the film, what did you guys think about the opening kind of the Flash against the Rogues and then the Justice League showing up and disarming all the bombs and everything like that?
I loved it. I loved it. It was really great to see Flash kind of shine.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't really get that a whole lot in these animated movies. We kind of get it in the animated series.
Right.
But as far as the movies, it was really a good change of pace to see the Flash get his own spotlight, especially Barry Allen's Flash, because in the series it's Wally West, but
right.
Barry Allen gets the spotlight. I was very happy to see that. I was very happy to see all the Rogues. He has a very, very eclectic gang of rogues.
Yeah.
I prefer his villains over like Superman's villains.
Yeah, he's got like next to Batman, I would say maybe the best kind of DC gallery of villains.
Yeah, for sure.
And I always forget how many he's got. Like he's got a ton of interesting villains.
Yeah, you got Mirror Master,
Captain Cold,
Captain
Boomerang.
Cold, Captain Boomerang.
Top is in this movie.
Weather Wizard. He's not in this movie, but he's one of the rogues.
Yeah, he's one of them. Weather Wizard. Yep.
Yeah.
And then of course Reverse Flash, Professor Zoom.
Professor Zoom.
And I was gonna say that's, even though this movie's called Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox, it is basically a Flash movie, and that's one of the things I love about it. Because we had gotten, with the animated movies, we had gotten a Batman movie, we had gotten a Green Lantern movie, a Wonder Woman movie, a Superman movie, but we hadn't gotten the Flash yet, and so this was kind of his first solo film, even though it has all the other characters in it.
But he's the main focus.
Yeah, absolutely. It is about, it starts with him as a little boy, and oh, by the way, I saw a little trivia fact, and I went and watched the beginning of the movie again to double check. When he first shows up at the house and sees that his mom, or sees that it had been broken into, and he sees like the birthday cake messed up and everything. The exterior of that house is the same as Marty McFly's house from Back to the Future.
Really?
Yeah.
Didn't know that. Wow.
I guess it's just a little time travel Easter egg, I guess.
I thought I found an Easter egg, but I didn't. Unless it is, but
it might be.
The old man holding the end is nigh sign. Yeah, I saw it pass by, and then I was like, wait, I got to rewind and see if that was Rorschach.
Yes, that was an Easter egg.
It wasn't him.
Well, I don't know if
it
it's
wasn't
Rorschach,
him,
but it's a nod to Watchmen for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought maybe, since these are different, things are different, that it could be an old Rorschach.
There you go. Maybe.
Yeah. That's what I'm going with.
Yeah. The one thing I guess I don't like about this movie is just the character designs, I guess. Like the Flash, Superman, and Aquaman especially kind of all look very similar. They all have like these gigantic upper bodies and the same kind of shape head.
Yeah, I agree.
And Aquaman especially, I think they just made too huge. That's the one thing I think I would change about the movie.
It's almost like an exaggerated, like animated football player from like
that's what it
from like the early 90s or something.
Yeah,
that's what it looks
like. Yep.
I agree to an extent.
Yeah.
Superman looks a little weird.
Yep.
But I love the way Aquaman looks.
Yeah.
Yeah. He
interesting.
This might be my favorite version of Aquaman.
Wow.
Total badass. I love the fade he has on his head.
Right. The scar across his face.
I love the design of Aquaman.
See, I like his design in the real, like
the Jason Momoa version of Aquaman. Is that what you're talking about?
No. I mean, before
it's live action.
No, I mean in this movie, like when it's not Yeah, at the beginning.
Oh, when it's
I like that's a cool looking Aquaman.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, I got you.
In the real, I see what you're saying. In the pre Barry mess things up.
Pre-Flashpoint.
Correct.
Pre-Flashpoint. Yeah. I do like the performance of Aquaman, and I do agree that maybe if they had made him too skinny, then he wouldn't have had that. Yeah, I mean, he's got to be going up against Wonder Woman, so they do, make him a little bigger. But he was almost borderline too big in my opinion. But I do like the performance. Carrie Elwes played as him, who is from The Princess Bride and Saw and
Robin Hood
Men in Tights. Yeah, that's right. Yep. So yeah, and I think the whole idea that the Atlanteans and the Amazons are in a war against each other, such an awesome idea.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Amazing.
Genius.
So cool. And
I do want to talk more about Reverse Flash.
Okay.
Professor Zoom. Like, this was my introduction to him because I didn't read any Flash comics. I don't know. I didn't watch the Justice League animated cartoon.
You don't really see much of him in any other medium outside of the comic.
I was gonna say, I don't know if he was like in the Justice League at all, like maybe a couple episodes, but
no.
Okay.
Not that I can remember.
Like I said, go ahead.
Well, I was just saying, I think this was my introduction to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I didn't, because I have not read that many Flash comics, and the few that I did read didn't have him in it. And so this was kind of my introduction to him. He is he has a big presence on the Flash live action TV show.
Yeah, I knew that. Like, I knew he was introduced pretty quick, but this being my first time, I remember when I first saw him and was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, I actually remember, now that we're talking about it, my first thought when I saw him was, wow, like the Flash universe must be a lot cooler than I expected.
Right. Yeah.
Because this is awesome.
Yeah.
The Flash, I mean, even before this movie, but definitely after this movie, it kind of like elevated his status among the pantheon of DC heroes. Like, he is definitely one of the best.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of like the Flash's Joker now, as Batman. Like, he's kind of the arch enemy now.
For the longest time, I always thought Captain Cold was the Flash's like arch nemesis. But now I think it really is like, it's the Reverse Flash. That's who his arch enemy is, Yeah. And I don't know if maybe Captain Cold was his arch enemy for the longest time until the Reverse Flash was kind of introduced. But but yeah, it's definitely his Joker is the Reverse Flash for sure.
Yeah. And I'm glad, like, it's a cool villain to have up next to him. You have the colors, just how like the Flash is so bright, he's like red and then has the yellow, and then he's bright yellow. Like, it's just
and
it's like, with the time thing and speed, you can do things like where their colors flipped, and it's just really neat. And
I love his red eyes too. I think his red eyes look so cool under that yellow
he
mask.
has like black eyeballs and red pupils. Like, it's so dope. It's so dope.
Very, very cool.
Just like the war between the Atlanteans and
Amazons. That's right. Oh, well, so one of the coolest things is, number one, I think, the Flash, I don't want to talk too much about the upcoming live action Flash movie that is going to be somewhat loosely kind of inspired / based on this storyline. But I do want to say, like, Warner Brothers could have made a live action Flashpoint movie, and it would have been so good because they had already introduced so many of the characters that are kind of vital to this story. The one character that I think they could change is Steve Trevor is in this, who gets killed by Wonder Woman. And obviously in the DCEU, Steve Trevor died in the first Wonder Woman movie, but you could have had that be Rick Flag before he got killed off in the Suicide Squad. The same thing with Captain Boomerang. I was watching this, and when Captain Boomerang was in the beginning of the movie, I was like, oh yeah, he's dead now in like the live action movies.
Yep.
So he's not going to be in any future Flash movies.
It pains me because the Flashpoint is such a fantastic story. It's so big, and it has so many characters. it could have been the Infinity War / Endgame.
Right. Yeah, I think so too.
The DCEU, and they completely dropped the ball on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they should be ashamed of themselves.
And especially the fact that they had already introduced Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne. Like,
I mean, come on.
Imagine?
Yeah, that's right.
God, he would have been an amazing Flashpoint Batman. So that really hurts my heart. But I really think you're absolutely right. Like, have a solo Flash movie where Reverse Flash is introduced, at some point, so we kind of realize who he is.
Mm-hmm.
And like work your way up to Flashpoint, and the Flashpoint could have been this big epic Avengers Endgame style kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they had time, because
they could have. They just didn't. They feel like they don't have time because they feel like they're constantly playing catch up to Marvel.
Yeah.
And now they've decided they're not going to do that anymore. They're not going to play catch up to Marvel. They're just going to put out good movies, and it's like, you could still do that and have a connected universe and take your time.
Yeah.
I'll still go see these movies. I'm not, you didn't have to put Justice League together so quickly and everything, even though I'm happy with Zack Snyder's Justice League and everything. But
yeah.
Well, here's what I mean. No, you're absolutely right. What I'm saying is that it kind of goes back all the way to Batman v Superman. Like, they were trying to get Justice League out, before Endgame.
Right.
And it just really messed with everything. So now that everything's kind of, this is all speculation, but kind of falling at their feet, they're like, let's throw our big movie out there, which was probably, Flashpoint, which is where they're just going to make it the Flash.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they've obviously they've changed, like, it's not going to be Thomas Wayne and it's going to be Michael Keaton Batman. They're doing the multiverse thing.
Right.
And so I don't know. I'm still, I know, Stu, you've talked about how your excitement level for that movie is just
going down the toilet.
It's gone into the negative numbers. Yeah, below zero. And I'm still I'm bummed that they pushed it back to 2023 now.
Yep.
Which kind of makes me nervous, but also, I don't know. I still am hopeful for it. I hope it's good. I'm excited because I like the Flash and I like Michael Keaton Batman and all that, but I don't know. I'm nervous about it, I guess. We'll see. Well, maybe when the next trailer comes out, we'll see how I feel. But
with everything that they've done with the DC universe thus far, and then all the changes that they made to Flash and what potentially it could do to the rest of the universe, that was the last straw for me. Like, I kind of just don't care anymore.
Yeah. The reason I brought up the live action Flash, though, is because there are so many moments in this animated movie that I would love to see in a live action movie. One of them would be hard to put in a PG-13 movie, and that's where Barry attempts to get his powers back.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Catches himself on fire. Like, it's so brutal, but at the same time, and then the second time when it goes, gets into the Speed Force and you see Flashpoint Batman kind of slowly going over the edge of the building and stuff, like, I want to see that in a live action movie. I think that would be so cool. And the scene where they break out Superman and he's running across the water and dismantling all the guns and everything, like, that scene is so amazing.
Yeah.
For being only 82 minutes long, there's a ton of great moments and scenes and action in this movie. It's kind of very tightly packed into a small window.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens in this movie, and it's very well paced. It even though there's a lot, it doesn't feel like too much.
It doesn't feel rushed, right?
Yeah, and there's nothing that I would take out. Not much I would add either.
No, yeah.
It's just it's a very well thought out adaptation of the source material.
Yeah, definitely.
And I like how too they throw it. They kind of. So I was going to mention earlier that it would be a kind of a weird movie to watch if you had no knowledge of if Wonder Woman was good or whatever. If you didn't know who these characters were.
Mm-hmm.
But they do go into the idea that you know who these characters are. you might not necessarily know their stories or their powers because they explain like Aquaman's power, you know, when he's like using the micro, I don't know what
to defuse the bomb, to eat through the wiring and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you have Wonder Woman using the lasso of truth, but then kind of in context explaining, like one of the Amazons mentions like
he's resisting it. That shouldn't be possible.
They kind of give it some context of what is going on with that thing. So, because now that I'm thinking about it, I think when I first watched this, I had barely any knowledge of Wonder Woman at all, and like I don't even know if I knew about the lasso of truth or if I had like forgotten about it when this first came out.
Oh wow.
Because once again, this was one of the first animated movies they did. Like, it was, and I'm just saying, I remember when she does that first trick, like me being reminded about the lasso of truth. So
nice. I love too that Wonder Woman wears Mira's crown. Or whatever it is.
That is savage.
Trophy. Yeah,
that is savage. You decapitate her and then wear her. No, first you sleep with her husband,
right?
Then you chop her head off, and then you wear her crown. Yep. It does not get any more savage than that. Wonder Woman is not to be trifled with.
No, he was not very happy.
No, he wasn't.
I mean, that's what started the whole war between the Atlanteans and the Amazons. So
cold-blooded.
What do you think about Michael B. Jordan as Cyborg?
I like him as Cyborg.
Yeah, I do too. I thought he was really good. I forget why they don't really explain why he looks different in the Flashpoint universe than he's like really tall. He's really kind of big and
I think that's because I think they made that change because he's like in the Flashpoint universe, he's the premier superhero. He's that world. Right.
Yeah, Superman. That's true. He is. Yeah. He's the one that reports to the president and everything.
Yeah. So they had to make him kind of look the part. Even though he already looked really cool before, they had to like up the ante on his appearance and really give him that premier superhero presence.
Right. I gotcha. That makes sense. I like too that in this universe, and they don't explain this either, I don't think, that rather than the Shazam family all having their own like hero, it's all 7 of them or whatever that creates, and they call him Captain Thunder in this universe, but that creates Shazam.
Yeah, it's like a Captain Planet type thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Our forces combined.
By the way, where's the live action
Captain Planet?
Yeah, I need that.
There was a couple characters I was unfamiliar with, and they're like the ones that save Lois Lane. I knew Etrigan the Demon.
Yeah,
but the other guys,
You didn't know Grifter?
Yeah, they're from Wildstorm Comics, which is a subsidiary of DC.
Yeah, weren't they called the Wildcats or something?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I cannot believe. See, sometimes
I was not familiar with Grifter. Interesting.
Grifter's cool. I like Grifter. Yeah.
So when I first saw like Guardians of the Galaxy, like just the reveal of what they were going to look like in the movie, because I had never heard of them, and I remember seeing Star-Lord and thinking, who does that remind me of? And I never got Grifter, but that's who it was. I remember thinking that I was like, I know I've seen Star-Lord before, and it was Grifter I was thinking of.
Yeah, they definitely have the same aesthetic. Even though they don't quite look exactly the same. Grifter is a little more real world grounded, but they definitely have the same.
You can get how like he just has like kind of a plain face with those eyes and shaggy hair and guns.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's got to be that guy.
Yeah.
But I had no idea like who he was. And when he popped up here, I was like, oh, Andy's DC. So I don't know where I saw him from because the only thing I would have imagined seeing him in would have been trading cards.
Yeah.
And I never had like DC trading cards. I had straight Marvel. So I have no idea where I saw him from.
The first time I saw him was in a on the cover of a novel. And they had put a bunch of Wildcat stories together.
Okay.
And it was a time of my childhood when I was like reading a ton of comics. I was reading everything I could get my hands on. And that's how I got into Dark Horse Comics and Image Comics, and
nice.
It was definitely a very comic booky time in my life. So I was familiar with a lot of smaller characters that nobody really knew about.
I'm guessing too, since I knew that they were called Wildcats, I must have seen like an advertisement for them, like maybe at a like comic book, like, because I did have a few comics, maybe like 10 random stuff. Yeah, exactly. There might have been an ad. Because I did have a couple Batman comics.
I did most of my comic reading in the early 2000s after the first Spider-Man movie came out. Because my mom would buy me comics occasionally as a kid, but it was like whatever was at the grocery store. And it was, so it was usually just Superman or Batman. I don't think, and I remember going to a comic book store as I was probably in middle school, and they had an X-Men comic. And so I had like one X-Men comic as a kid too. Most of my X-Men knowledge came from that animated show. Yeah. But once Spider-Man came out, I bought a Spider-Man action figure, and on the back it had like comic shop locator, and it was, with a website, or might have even had a phone number too. And I realized there was like 2 or 3 comic book stores around me, and I was like, what? And so I started going and buying comics almost every week, and I started spending a lot of money on comic books. And I eventually had to kind of stop, because at one point I had one comic store pulling titles for me every week, and if I didn't go every week and buy them, it would start to really pile up. And at one point I went in there and I spent, and I was 19, 20 at the time. I spent like $200, and I was like, you can stop pulling titles for me, please. And so I ended up having to kind of stop buying comics for a while. But every now and again I get back into it, and then I'm like, I don't know where to put these. I have no space. But and it's just so easy to spend. Like, you go in and you're like, all right, I'm only going to buy like 3 titles. And then you're like, oh God.
And then you walk out with like 20 titles.
Right. Yeah. And they're like, see you next week. So
that one dangerous. Time, like, you took me to the comic book store one time. Pretty sure we were rooming together at that point. And, that's where I got Green Lantern Rebirth. And that's about all the comics I got. I got a handful. Like, it seems like I got one with Venom, and I did get a Superman comic, but I don't have those anymore.
Yeah.
But that was around the time that you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Early 2000s ish, mid 2000s ish. Yeah.
Yeah. My mom would go to flea markets on the weekends, and there would always be booths with comic books, and I would just spend the entire afternoon at that booth.
Nice.
So that's where I got most of my comic books. And then when I got older, I went to like Barnes and Noble and stuff like that.
Graphic novels and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had the time if I had the money and the space, I would go every week and buy several titles of comic. It's just issues every week, because I do love it, and I love reading them and everything. It's just the problem with comics is you buy them, you read it once, you put it in its bag and board, you tape it, you put it in a box, and it sits there forever.
And that's why I buy graphic novels instead of comics now.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it makes a lot of sense. I wait until the arc is done, and then I go and get the whole story.
Yep.
You're also probably more likely to read it again.
Yes,
absolutely. Yes. You are.
Like, it's like rewatching a movie.
Right.
Yep.
You're not watching it scene by scene. You're just watching the whole movie.
Right. There was another person I wanted to bring up in this movie. Oh, there was the scene with Lex Luthor and Deathstroke and all that. I loved seeing the villains kind of working together to, fight against the war.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And again, I thought about if this was live action, They had already introduced Deathstroke at the end of Justice League.
Mhm.
We had, Jesse
Lex
Eisenberg,
Luthor.
Lex Luthor. I mean, they had all these characters like already. They could have just put them in Flashpoint. It would have been great. But
Yeah, that was definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie, seeing them work together. Because there were so many people in this one battle.
Right.
You had Clayface, you had Killer Frost,
Clayface was awesome.
Yeah.
Deathstroke, who was voiced by Ron Perlman, who also did Slade on the Teen Titans animated series.
Oh, cool! I didn't know that actually.
Yes,
very nice.
He happens to be one of my wife's favorite villains.
Very cool.
Who else was in there? You had both Aqualads.
Right.
You had Garth and what is his name? Calderon. So that was cool. That was just a really epic
it's a cool scene. Yeah, it's a very cool scene. Yeah.
You also had Erm.
Orm, yep.
Which was really cool because, like I said, I didn't know. I thought I recognized him, Stu, when we were watching
Aquaman.
When we did the Aquaman movie, and I remember, like, I think I've seen him, or no, I don't think I had. I just was like, I love his costume.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he popped up on here, I was like, this is great. I know.
You were like Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, there he is.
And when he was like, reacting to Aquaman, like he was like, yes, my liege. Like I was like, man, like Arthur has him just whipped.
Yeah.
Because I know how he can be.
Right.
And for him to just be groveling now. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, we didn't talk about Hal Jordan. I wanted to talk about that scene.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
In this universe, he obviously didn't get the ring, but he does find, General Lane shows him the ship and Abin Sur in the little case and everything, and he gets to fly the alien ship to his death.
Yeah. I remember saying, like, because, like I said, I was watching this with my kids, and he goes and flies in there, and then it just explodes. And I was like, well, if he didn't just get the ring, then he's dead. And sure enough, he's dead. So
that's the one thing that I would have changed about the movie is if we could have gotten a little bit more Hal Jordan, just a little bit,
right? But it was cool, like the way it was done. And well, we won't talk about it because it's Flash, the Flash movie, so I'll leave that out. But I was going to talk about, if you remember, like Chris Pine was one of the people that wanted a lot of people were saying to play Hal Jordan.
Right.
And I remember when I saw he was cast in Wonder Woman, I was like, it's going to be Hal Jordan somehow. But then they did it during the period.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, maybe since they're doing 84, like he'll wake up and be that. But if they do a Flashpoint where we got a different universe going, they could make, what's his name?
Steve Trevor.
Yeah. They could literally make him become like Hal Jordan, which I would love, because I was heavily on the Chris Pine train.
Yeah. I think Chris Pine would be a good Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Nathan Fillion is a fantastic.
I was gonna say Nathan Fillion. He's really good as Hal Jordan. For the voiceover.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But if he was younger, he'd make an excellent Hal Jordan live action, like perfect.
Nathan Fillion from the Firefly.
Yes.
That would be perfect Hal Jordan.
I'm still Chris Pine. But I did always think, I don't know, Justin, did you ever play Uncharted?
I played the first one.
I felt like he would have made a great Drake. Yeah.
Chris Pine or Nathan Fillion?
Nathan Fillion would have been perfect for him.
Absolutely. He would have been. And now let's talk about Superman. So in the Flashpoint universe, it's one of the things I really, really like about this alternate universe is that his spaceship did not end up in Smallville, Kansas. It landed in Metropolis, I think is what they said.
Yep.
And so he has been, stowed away in some underground vault type thing for his entire life.
With a red sun.
Yeah.
Artificial red sun.
Right. And so he is It's interesting that he can even speak. I makes me think they, talk to him
Barely.
when he was younger and everything.
He can barely speak.
Right. But he can.
But he also understands what the words mean.
Bit. Yeah, he knows what friend means and stuff. Yeah. But I just love that whole, and I do love that they, Batman's first reaction, he's like, "This is the strongest being in the world," or whatever. But then when they carry him outside, he immediately just flies away, and they're like, "Well, there goes that plan."
No, wait, come back. Yeah.
I like it too. I think it's a neat, also it made them not rely on Superman to save the day.
Yeah.
Even though he does come in and he saves somebody.
Right.
But
he's not like he's not the reason that they win.
Correct. Yeah. He's not the, the ace up the sleeve that they expected him to be. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I like the outfit.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
It's kind of like a white and gray outfit.
Still has the S on the chest.
And he didn't have a cape, did he?
No,
he didn't have a cape.
Yeah. It was a cool, alternate, especially this not being the Superman that you've seen before,
right?
Kind of having. And I liked how, he was. It was an interesting character to turn him into. He's like you don't want to say mindless, but he's definitely, he doesn't have any experience. He doesn't have anything he's built on, but he has the kind heart.
Yeah.
He's
never seen that. He's never seen the outside world.
Right.
Right.
But
I
somehow
like where he sees the sun,
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and he's also still technically the most powerful, thing there. So, but almost like a child version.
Yeah, man, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Like a toddler,
childlike innocence to him.
Yeah. So it was pretty neat. I liked it a lot.
Despite being in a cage basically for his entire life. So.
Yeah.
Speaking of child, you just reminded me of another brutal scene.
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman kills. I'm assuming it's Billy.
The Shazam kids.
Yeah, that shocked me.
Yeah.
Like they cut away from it, but then they cut back to his eyes rolling,
lifeless body falling to the ground. Yeah. There's been a few animated movies in the DC animated lineup that have been rated R, and I'm almost surprised this one didn't get an R rating for some of the.
They probably. I'm wondering if the what is it, the
MPAA?
Yeah. If they were
it's just the MPA, I think.
At this point, they might have been like, well, it's a Justice League.
I think the thing is, it's not explicit, but there is a lot of violence alluded to, even though we don't actually see.
Like we don't actually see Mira getting her head cut off.
Yeah, we see her head. We see her head off of her body, but we don't actually see her get
right. But they also show Wonder Woman shoving a sword down Aquaman's back. That was pretty gruesome.
We also see Steve Trevor get choked to death with the lasso of truth, and he spits blood out of his mouth.
Yeah,
and
so, we also see a very open wound inside Eobor Thawne's head.
That's true too.
Yeah, you see his brains and everything.
Yeah, I was like, I really think.
So that could have been rated R. Yeah, I take back what I said.
I think if they had gone back today and were reviewing it, they probably would have been looking a little bit, because someone probably complained at some point. Maybe because do they watch?
I showed this to my kids.
Yeah, I mean,
I assume they watch. I mean, I feel like you have to watch the whole thing in order to give it a proper rating.
Yeah, but I think sometimes they're slacking. I imagine
they're on their phone.
Yeah,
I imagine at this point they were like DC and animated, PG-13. We got to sell it to kids.
Yeah,
but then when they were watching,
it's over. PG-13.
We might need to do R on this one. So
it's like that joke about I don't know if it's a joke, but the South Park. When the South Park movie came out. It kept getting sent back to the studio, I guess, from the MPAA with an NC-17 rating. And rather than cutting stuff out, they just kept putting more stuff in it and sending it back. And it eventually got an R, which is they were just
that's so
whatever.
backwards.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It sounds like something the South Park guys would do.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else you want to talk about with this movie? I would talk about the music, but I mean, I think the score was good. There was one moment in particular I was like, this is a cool like track. But other than that, I never really noticed the music. It served the purpose, I think, of the film, but it didn't really stand out, which is not a bad thing necessarily. But I don't have too much to say about the score, unless either of you do.
No, same. It's like you said, it served the purpose. I think the moment that stands out the most was in the third act when
I think so too.
Flash and Reverse Flash are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it stands out the most.
I was just thinking about that scene too, because I was thinking about how they were like almost Tron, like, you know, going through the city.
Yeah,
it was so cool.
Yeah.
How they're off in their own, like everyone else is doing, you know, their own thing, and literally only Flash and Reverse Flash are capable of fighting each other. Yeah, and they're going through the corners, and like Flash is following Reverse Flash, but he can keep up with them, and it's like they're in their own little world, like right now, you know. And then it even cuts to them being kind of in that tunnel, and it just kind of brings you into that idea of what the Flash universe is capable of, which is a lot of things. It's really cool. And this is the movie that really opened my eyes as to the potential for what kind of stories you could do with Flash. And with the character of the Reverse Flash and stuff.
For sure. I feel the same way. This is definitely the movie that I've always liked Flash, but this movie right here made me love Flash. I was like, he is an awesome character. He is so much more than just super speed.
Right.
And they really expound on that. But yeah, I'm in total agreement. This is the quintessential Flash movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yep,
I think
absolutely.
So. I agree. Well, I think with that being said, why don't we go into the ratings?
I hated it.
Okay, well, half a star.
It's the quintessential Flash movie, but I hated it.
Right. I'll give you my rating. So I looked it up on Letterboxd, and I had given it 4.5 out of 5. But after watching it today again, which I think this is the third time I've watched it, I said, you know what? This I think is probably my favorite of all of the DC animated movies. And if I don't give it 5 stars, then none of them would get, like nothing would get 5 stars. So to me, this is a 5-star movie. I think this is, like you said, the quintessential Flash movie. And I think it's just my only nitpick is just the design of the characters a little bit, not liking how kind of bulky and football player-ish they look. Mm-hmm. And that's really like the only negative thing I can say about the movie, and that's nothing. So it's a 5 stars for me. 5 out of 5. Nice. 5 out of 5 Mira helmets.
I am going to give it 4.5 out of 5 Reverse Flash cows.
Okay.
I thought it was, like you said, just really, like, it was, well, it's my favorite. I haven't seen as many as you guys, but of the animated movies, but this is definitely my favorite of them, even over the Green Lantern one, which I thought was fantastic.
Yeah.
So
what is keeping you from giving it that extra half star? Just the fact that it's not.
It just didn't feel like a 5.
The Godfather.
Right. I know. It just didn't feel like a 5 one. Like, it's, like I said, 4.5. I would imagine. I'm not going to give a DC animated movie 5 stars. This would be the top of the list for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm. But that's
and I think that's why I gave it 4.5 originally too, because I was like, I can't. It's not like I was wanting to reserve my 5-star movies for things like The Dark Knight and things like that. But I mean, I kind of have. You almost kind of have to.
Oh yeah, no, I get you.
Like, it's. For what it is, it's a 5-star movie in my opinion. So yeah,
exactly.
Right. But anyway, I'm not to say that your rating is wrong or anything. I was just curious what was keeping you from giving it that
to me,
star.
like a 5-star movie is one that I can tell someone you have to see this, you know,
it will change your life.
Almost like possibly, you know, like it was not only a perfect movie, but one that was it just stood out beyond standing out is like a 5-star review for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah, like I said, quintessential Flash movie. There is almost nothing lacking in the movie. Nothing that I would add to it other than maybe a few more seconds of Hal Jordan.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, I think we all agree that this is one of, if not the best DC animated movie. As far as the straight to DVD ones, it's honestly probably right next to Batman, Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah.
In quality. But yeah, I love it. So I'm gonna give it 5 Flash lightning bolts.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'd love to know what you think about Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox. You can always leave a comment on our website, cinemaheroes.com. You can tweet at us on Twitter at cinemaheroes, or leave us a comment on Instagram, also the same handle, at cinemaheroes. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook, facebook.com/SM and SM Podcasts, which I wonder if we can change that. I'm not sure. It may have to stay that way. Yeah, we'd love to hear. Oh, if you're watching this on YouTube, of course. If you're watching this on YouTube, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And leave a comment below about what you like about this movie or what you didn't like about this movie. And what other movies you want us to talk about. We'd love to hear from you any way you want to reach out to us. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm John Pelzel.
I'm Jake Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.